What's up, guys? I'm Rod, hanging out, and I want to do a video response to a thread that's going around. 6 Strings, 9 Lives has a thread about 10 essential albums. If you had to narrow your collection down to 10 albums, what would it be? And this is a hard thing to do. It really is. I've only got 215 albums. I know because I looked at my Discogs, and I have 215. And to narrow mine down to 10 is hard. I can't imagine the guys and girls who have 1,000, 2,000 records in their collection. That would be just almost impossible. And the contest, it's not a contest, it's a thread. And the only little rules were no greatest hits or compilations and only 3 live albums. So that makes it really hard to get it down to 10 albums. If you wanted to do all 10 albums by the same artist, you could if you wanted. Like you said, that would be really boring. But here's the 10 that I would choose if I had to narrow it down. You know, whether you were late on a mortgage payment, you had to sell all your records off but 10, or whatever the reason may be. If you had to only choose 10 out of your collection and get rid of the rest of them. For me, I'd have to have a Jimi Hendrix, and I would go with Jimi Hendrix Are You Experienced. This is a reissue. My favorite Hendrix album. In fact, I'm playing a Hendrix in the background. Electric Ladyland I just got from Amazon today. A 2-record set. And just because it's new to me, I just got this today. I actually may go with this as the one Jimi Hendrix album that I'm bringing. This came with a little booklet. Love Jimi Hendrix. It's got some neat pictures in there and a couple little articles. This is a reissue, obviously, on 180 gram vinyl. It's a 2-disc set. Some songs that weren't on the original Electric Ladyland. I'd either go with that one or probably this one because that was my first pick. So I'd say this is the Jimi Hendrix album I'm bringing with me for my 10. I'd have to have some Led Zeppelin. I'm going with Led Zeppelin 3, my favorite of the Led Zeppelin albums. Great album. This is not an original pressing, but it is an early pressing. Led Zeppelin 3. 2 is a great album. 1's a great album. 4, they're all great, but this is my favorite Led Zeppelin, and this is going to come with me. Since I've been loving you, friends, that's the way. It doesn't seem to be as popular as, say, Led Zeppelin 1 or Led Zeppelin 2. But for me, it's the one I'd keep if I had to narrow it down. So that's 2 albums. Neil Young, I'd have to bring this one. After the Gold Rush. Southern Man. Great album by Mr. Young. Gatefold album. I'm sure everyone's seen this album a million times. Mr. Neil Young would be in the top 10 albums. Maybe not in my top 10 favorite albums, but if I could only keep 10 albums, he would be in there. I'd have to have some Neil Young. Put that away later. Johnny Winter. Anyone that knows me personally knows I love Johnny Winter. I was going to go with Johnny Winter and Live, but I decided to go with the studio album, Guitar Slinger. This is back when he was on Alligator Records. His live album is really cool, but he does a lot of covers on it, which is fine. It was part of his show. But I wanted some of his own material, so I went with Guitar Slinger. The Grateful Dead, same thing with Johnny Winter, man. I was going to choose one of their live albums because they're most famous for their live shows. But I decided to go with Working Man's Dead. A studio album, my favorite studio album by them. Their live albums, they do a lot of cover songs. They did a whole lot of cover songs, which is fine. They covered Merle Haggard, they covered the Stones, Bob Dylan, Marty Robbins. But I chose this, some of their original material that they did. One of my favorite bands ever, the Grateful Dead. So I'd definitely have to have these guys in my 10 albums. Rolling Stones are another one, man. I have to have the Stones in them. I didn't know which one I would grab. I was thinking maybe Let It Bleed. But I went with a live album that just came out this year. It was recorded in the 90s. Voodoo Lounge, Uncut Live. And the reason I went with this one, it's the closest thing to a greatest hits, and the rules were no greatest hit albums. So I'm with this live Stones album that pretty much covers their entire career. From the Not Fade Away song they did, that Buddy Holly had made famous, Tumbling Dice, Stop Breaking Down, Heartbreaker, Monkey Man. I figured this would cover my Rolling Stones fix, so went with this one. Bruce Springsteen had to be in my 10 albums, and of course this was a no-brainer for me. Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. Late 70s, had Born to Run, Thunder Road on it, Jungle Land. Bruce. He is going in my 10 albums. This is where it starts getting harder when you get it down to 3 albums. But I went with David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust. This is a reissue on 180 gram. If you had to have a David Bowie album, this is the one I'd recommend. David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust. I could listen to it from the first track to the last track without wanting to get up and skip a song. Plus, I'm too lazy to get up and skip a song, so. Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie. The last two got kind of difficult, man. But I'm going Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, classic album. Just, it was either this or Animals by Pink Floyd. And I chose, thank God we don't really have to do this, but I chose Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. And the last album I was thinking, what would it be? And I was thinking maybe some Chet Baker, some jazz, maybe another Grateful Dead album. Rush, I like moving pictures. But I went with Bob Dylan. Then what Bob Dylan album would I pick? And that's a hard one. But I went with Saved from the early 80s during his Christian period. And I like this one because it's very inspirational to me. When you're feeling down or whatever, I'm feeling down, I can put this on. Has Satisfied Mind on it. Has a song called Covenant Woman that really reminds me of my relationship with my wife. So that means a lot to me. Bob Dylan, Saved. He has a lot of stuff to choose from, Bob Dylan. I knew I'd want some of his stuff. And for me, it's just a personal thing. It may not be someone else's favorite Bob Dylan album. In fact, he got a lot of slack for making the Christian albums, the Christian music back then. But like I said, it's sentimental to me. It's very inspirational. Those are the 10 albums that I chose to keep if I had to get rid of everything else. And if you ask me again in a week, I'd probably pick 10 different albums because it's such a hard thing to do. But it's a great thought. It's a great thread. Darcy's, I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. 6 strings, 9 lives thread. Check it out, guys. And what would be your 10? Peace. Thanks for hanging out with me this evening. I appreciate y'all. Be good, and we'll see you next time.